Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad that you're here. Today we're going to be talking about bones. And today is going to be about the altar that you should create before you start throwing bones. You could still not have an altar, but I really feel like this is something that needs to be discussed because the more you honor your ancestors, the more they're going to come through for you during the readings. And that's going to make more sense as we go along in this series. But the more you honor them, the more gifts you leave them, the more you talk to them, the closer you bring them in. And the closer you bring them in, the more they can hear you. The more you can feel them at the same time. And so we're going to go over today exactly what an altar for bone throwing is, okay? And basically, you start out with, you don't want any pictures on your altar to be of people that are alive. Like if it's you with the person that's passed, you need to cut yourself out of the picture or use another picture instead. It needs to be just about the person that has passed that you're trying to honor. Now, you can honor many family members on the same altar, okay? Just have their pictures out there, okay? I'll show you guys an example, and I don't mind showing this because my dad just passed. So I use this one, it's actually at my house, which actually works, and I actually use that one so that I can sit out here and talk to my dad because this is where I throw bones. And so I've set up a little mini altar for him, okay? And I'm going to be using pieces from that as examples during this video. But your altar also needs to be private, okay? It needs to be in an area that doesn't have high traffic. This doesn't need to be a full display for everybody and their mom to see, okay? This is only for you. Only for you. And only for you and the connection that you need to get with that person. Now, before my dad passed, I was using my grandmother and my grandfather came through a lot for me when I was throwing the bones. And so I have an altar of them in my bedroom though, which my bedroom is always dark because my husband's always in there sleeping. He works nights. And so it's always dark. So technically to me that's covered, and nobody ever really sees it. Well, I'm only showing this one to you guys today just as examples because I know my dad's is fresh. I don't feel like he's ready to help me do the bones yet because he's still kind of in his own space, exploring wherever he's at, which I totally feel that on every level. Because my dad, he taught me everything I know about herbs. And so along with his knowledge of herbs and my mom's knowledge of flowers and then me collecting bones and things like that over time, all the knowledge for me just kind of came together. But anyway, let's get back to the subject at hand. We're talking about the altar. So your altar needs pictures just of the people that are deceased, okay? You can put out little trinkets that they liked or that they owned, maybe that you found after they passed. One thing that I was allowed to take, I found in my dad's jewelry box, was this shark tooth. It's like a fossilized shark tooth that I'm pretty sure he found when he was a teenager. And so I keep that with me. And then he also gave me, I think this is a buckeye nut. I'm pretty sure, yeah. He gave me this. Oh my God, I can't even tell y'all how many years ago that he gave me this buckeye nut. But I keep these things in a pouch and I leave them on the altar because these are things that he gave to me that have his energy still attached to it. You feel me? So the more little things you have like that, and especially having things out that they liked. Okay, my dad, like I say, he was an herbalist. He had massive knowledge of herbs and mushrooms, and pretty much his whole entire apothecary took up a whole wall, and he picked it. He foraged it all himself, foraged every single bit of it all by himself. And so I'm super proud of him in that. And so I have a candle. It's just a little mushroom candle, and I haven't even lit it or anything. But that's for my dad. And then of course I have a shell. I always have a shell just to keep the connection open. You know what I mean? And this one's so big you can hear the ocean in it, like for real. My kids were really excited about that. But my most favorite thing that somebody gave me when my dad passed, actually two of my most favorite things. One is this beautiful bird nest, okay, that somebody gave me that they say like basically opened up like this, like a basket whenever they reached for it. It had like been in a ball and then it just kind of opened up. And so she's like, I feel like this needs to go to you. I was like, I will sure take it. And so I've put his pictures in there. But somebody sent me a burden bear, which is a story. I'm not sure where the story is at, but it basically takes your burdens. Now, if you don't know, I consider my dad my bear. That's why I have a big ass bear right here tattooed on my shoulder. He was like my protector and he gave the best hugs. And so it's things like that that you need to put out on your altar. It's things that you vibe with, that you feel like they would vibe with. There's also another something a little special that I have is this bear claw that I had two and they matched. And I made one into a necklace for my dad. And he hung it up next to his bed, or his side of the bed. And so after he passed, I was like, hey, where's that necklace at? And so I actually put it in his front pocket, the necklace, in his casket. And I have the other matching one still. And so this one also sits on the altar with his pictures and things like that. Because it brings me comfort knowing that he has a piece and I have one. And it's little things like that. Now, after you've made your altar and you figure out where you're going to put it, where there's not a lot of high traffic, where you can keep it covered and, but yet you can still leave offerings and things like that, you need to cleanse this area very well before you start setting things up. And I mean, use like a cleansing spray with like rosemary and cedar and like spray the surface. Clean it really, really well, and then set up everything nice and neat. Because you're going to need this altar when you start throwing bones. This is the altar you're going to go to when you are preparing to throw the bones. And when I mean preparing to throw the bones, what we do, we have to do the same thing we would do if we're doing a spell. Ground, meditate, bring the ancestors in type deal and see how much you can get from them. See how much that you can actually hear by doing meditation and things like that before you start doing the bone throw. Now, you can have this altar in the place where you throw if you want, because I do have my grandmother's altar set up in my room, and that's where I used to throw bones. And now I've moved out here into the garage, and this is where I throw bones out now, so I have my dad's stuff out here. But basically, to open a throw, like I say, you ground, you meditate, you talk to your ancestors, you really center yourself, you add that little aura of protection. And for me now, and not everybody that bone throws does what I do, okay? So these aren't things that you have to do. You don't have to have an ancestral altar. I just feel like it will help you connect better by seeing their face. I know it makes me feel better by seeing their face, because I can see their face more clearly in my mind when they communicate with me. You see what I'm saying? It's just keeping them close, keeping them happy, leaving like a shot of alcohol, some tobacco, also things like that, like plants and things like that, things that they would have enjoyed when they were still alive. Leave those things out there for them. But that could be in the same vicinity as where you throw your bones. And if it is, your area needs to be something either that's natural. It needs to be animal skin, wood, um, the ground, like dirt. It could be anything like that. That's something that's natural. You know what I mean? This table is wood, and then I actually have a skin on top of it. And so I kind of have, and then I throw on a circular skin. And I also have a bowl as well that I throw into a wooden bowl. And so everything has to be natural. This is a very nature based program. It's a very, not program, but spirituality. It's very, very nature based. It's very, very much so knowing that everything in nature has its own energy, and that's the kind of energy that we're trying to harness here. So you have to have these things, I feel like, in order to throw bones. So, and what I do, back to saying what I was going to do, is I knock 3 times before my throws. I also have an oil that I use on my hands. It's actually called Luna Brew, and it's actually in my Etsy shop if you guys ever want to check that out. I use that on my hands to cleanse and to also help give the power of divination to my hands. And then I start throwing the bones. I also cleanse the bones with the oil as well. Or you can use a spray to cleanse your bones. Don't worry, we're going to get into bones and all that other stuff probably in the next episode. But right now, we're just talking about setting things up, finding a place where you feel comfortable enough to throw bones, to where you can have, you don't have to have a full-on display set up, for your ancestor. Just having their picture there is perfectly fine. You don't have to go all out. But I do recommend leaving them gifts, obviously, of things that they would want, especially like on, their birthdays and things like that. Bake them a cake and give them a piece. Like my dad's birthday's on Thanksgiving this year, and I plan on doing that. I plan on baking cake, cutting a slice, and putting it on his altar or whatever. So that's just the way that I feel like I'm deep in the ancestry stuff. Now, if you want to work with deities when you're throwing bones, that's a really good way to get tricked into saying a lot of things that may not be true. But your ancestors will tell you the truth, because they can't tell you anything. They can't tell you anything else, any other else. They can't lie, not in the state that they're in. They're there to help you. And I'm not saying, I'm not, and I'm also not saying you have to work with all your ancestors. If there's somebody in your family that has passed that you don't want to work with, do a cord cut with them. I had to do that with an uncle. He was one of those uncles, just, one of those uncles. So anyway, yeah, it's just not a good thing. I had to do a cord cut with him because he kept dumping out all the blue flowers in my room, like the lotus blossoms, the cornflowers, the lavender. And I was like, no, I don't want to communicate with you, like point blank period. And I did a cord cut actually at the creek with him and sent him on down the creek because let the ancestors of the creek handle it is exactly what I thought. Now, when you start throwing bones, like I say, you kind of want to have like a nice little setup where you're comfortable, maybe like some incense if you want, if that helps you kind of get into the mood. It can also protect you depending on what kind you're using. If you want to use dragon's blood or sage or sweetgrass or whatnot, be mindful though of what you're using. If you're doing divination, I would say use lotus. Or honeysuckle or violets, stuff like that. Even frankincense is a good one for divination. So those are the certain kind of incenses and things you can use as well. But the best thing is to have the altar up, to have a natural place to throw, a natural whatever, whether it's animal skin, rabbit fur, cowhide. It can be a big old, it could be a snake skin, it can be whatever it is. Wood, a wooden table, if that's all you got, hey, work with it. You know what I mean? If all you have is 100% cotton sheet, hey, that's 100% cotton. You can use that sheet to throw on. You know what I mean? You don't have to go out and buy a bunch of things when you first start throwing, especially when we get into the actual bones, because I'm going to introduce it a little bit at a time because it's a lot of information. It is a lot. And I do have a class on this in my Etsy shop as well. Both of them are an hour and a half long. I have a beginner and an intermediate. I got to do a second intermediate class. But if y'all want to check that out, you can. I also sell the bone bags as well. And I do not skimp on the bone bags in my shop. Like, I will give you everything and you will get a full-blown list of what's in your bag. Okay. You just pick one, big ticket item, and then the rest is like you get mandibles, claws, jaws. Yeah, I mean, you get everything you need to start out with. And then, of course, you can build onto your set from there, whether it is you like to go out in the woods and scavenge, or if you like to already purchase yours already cleaned. That would be me, for example. I like to get mine already cleaned. I haven't yet to learn the process of cleaning bones. I want to learn that process, but I have yet to learn that. But anyway, back to throwing bones. So when we're throwing the bones and we're talking to our ancestors, it's very important to strengthen that intuition muscle. Now, something that you can do to do that is, the best thing I could say is to maybe get 3 cards, okay, and set those out, like, and know what they are, but try to find one, like, try to test yourself, test your intuition. And the more and more you test your intuition by trying to think what card this is, or what color is this crystal, or, things like that, to strengthen your intuition, because you're going to need your intuition a lot when you're throwing bones. At first, you can use arrows, of course, for direction, but eventually your intuition's going to take over, and you're not going to hear anything that's coming out of your mouth, and it's just going to all come out, and it's going to be your ancestors talking, telling you what to say, and then after the throw, you're not going to remember what you said. That's how you know when you're working with the ancestors. Yeah. Because, somebody could ask me 5 minutes later, and I'll be like, you know what? It's a good thing we recorded that when I send it to you, because I'm going to have to rewatch it and tell you. I'm just saying, I've had the same discussion with my mentor at Atlanta. All right. I'm going to tag her in this video anyway. But yes, that's the altar that you need to set up for, for bone, if you want to start bone throwing. It's very simple. It's not that you have to go out and buy anything. You ain't got to go out and buy a fancy shelf or nothing like that. Like I say, I'm definitely not trying to get y'all to go out and spend a bunch of money. But you do need to have a decent set. You do need to have something natural to throw on. And I feel like you do need to have an ancestral altar, at least somewhere in your home or wherever it is that you throw, set up away from the public eye and covered during the day. If you can't cover it, then turn off the lights in the room and shut off the curtains, just like what's happening in my room right now. Anyways, I know this is a short video, but I'm going to be doing these short videos on bone throwing and just kind of throwing them out there and, just giving you guys information. And if there's any questions that you have whatsoever, please drop them below and I will be glad to make a video to answer them. I love bone throwing. I've been doing it for years now, and it's brought me a lot of joy. The passing of my father really made me, it shook my confidence. Let me just say that. It shook my confidence when it came to throwing the bones, but I'm getting it back. I have to be in nature and in order to ground, like at the creek, in the water, and that's something that I haven't done yet, because nature was something that me and my dad shared, because we'd always go fishing and things like that. So it's going to be hard for me to get out there and without bawling and crying. So, but anyway, I will do that. Absolutely. And you yourself, y'all need to get out there and ground too. Another thing with working with your ancestors is they're going to start sending you a lot of signs. And you need to be looking around and watching for those signs or you'll miss them. I'm just telling you. So if you're waiting for something to happen, nothing's going to happen. But if you're looking for it, like right now I'm hearing a hawk outside. That makes all the sense in the world. Because of what we're talking about right now. We're talking about ancestors. And, you know, it's little signs like that that show me that our ancestors are still here. Like yesterday, for example, I picked up this light, which as you can see on the bottom, you have to like unscrew it in order to turn it on and turn it, you know, to turn it on. But it's already on because it has a remote. Actually, it's not on right now. But it's all, the button's always on and there's a screw cap. Yesterday, I put this candle down and the damn thing turned on by itself. This remote was sitting over here untouched by anything. And it was the only one that came on. I set up like 7 of them. Make it make sense. I think it was my dad, to be honest with y'all. So, bring your ancestors in. I even got a little bit of this graveyard dirt right here too. So, bring them in, you know. And if you have an issue with one of your ancestors, you can decide on whether or not you want to work with them by forgiving them and doing that shadow work. Or if it's just too much, do that core cut and pounce them. You feel me? Because they can bring bad energy, some of them. I felt like my uncle was going to be that way. So that's why I dismissed him early. You know. Anyways, so I hope you guys gain some knowledge from this. Like I say, these videos are going to be when I can put them out randomly. So they're going to be short. But anyways, I love you guys. I hope you learned something. Let me know down below what you need to know about the bones and we'll talk about it. Not a problem. Anyway, if nobody's told you today, I love you. So have a great day and a great week.